Now we go to a serious story. Unfortunately, Larry King has made it funny. Julian Assange, of course, runs WikiLeaks, and they had an enormously important leak of close to 400,000 documents. Very important ramifications in there. Turns out we missed 15,000 civilians killed in Iraq. Oops. Or actually, we didn't miss it. It was already in the documents. They just didn't tell the public. And that's why these WikiLeaks are so important. And it turns out there was about 1,000 cases of torture, rape, murder, etc. by the Iraqi authorities that we just kind of happened to turn a blind eye to. And so, like, there's stories in there where our guys would get a prisoner and they'd be like, yeah, they beat the hell out of him. He's got a black eye, he's got bruises, he's got this, he's got that. He checks out okay, no torture. Oh, come on, dude. Okay, so now this happened over and over again. Now this is very, very serious stuff. So the fact that we now know about it is very important, and some of it continued in the Obama years after Obama did the directive of no more torture. We don't do it, and we don't participate or interrogate anybody who has been tortured by anyone else, including the Iraqi authorities, and that continued. So those are very important revelations. So, of course, when Julian Assange was being first interviewed by CNN, they asked him about allegations of rape and molestation. No, not by any authorities or anything like that, but by him in Sweden, according to charges. He walked out of that interview, right? Now, look, whether he should have answered that question is a good question. Whether walking out was the right attitude to take there, that's a good question, right? Now, before we do anything else, I should be clear on this. I read a lot into those charges from Sweden. And, of course, it's impossible to determine because you got two women, one's in her 30s and one in her 20s. They're both saying, hey, it started out as consensual, but then it turned into something else. One is charging rape, the other one is charging molestation. So we weren't in the room, right? But first the charges get brought up by a low-level prosecutor, and then a higher prosecutor looks at him and goes, oh, that's crazy talk, dismisses the charges. And then a higher-level prosecutor comes back in and goes, no, we like those charges, and brings them back in. And you're telling me that coincidentally, what a wild coincidence, right as the first leaks of WikiLeaks were happening about Afghanistan, etc., that there happened to be some rape and molestation charges against the guy doing the WikiLeaks at the same exact time. What an unbelievable coincidence. If Adrian Monk has taught me anything in life, it's that there are no coincidences. Okay, so are they trying to smear him? I don't know for sure, but everything about the story screams, of course, of course, of course. So now if I was a prosecutor, those women came in, I would take those charges very seriously. If I'm in the audience and thinking, oh, well, I got torture and murder and 15,000 civilians extra killed here, total of 122,000, who cares? Let's talk about his rape and molestation charges, okay? I wouldn't do that. No, the actual charges, the real evidence in the WikiLeaks is a million times more important, okay? Now, Julian Assange goes on Larry King live, and King is going to ask him about the walkout again, which Assange is, of course, frustrated by. But the confusion that ensues when Larry King doesn't understand what's live and what's on tape is awesome.
Julian, shortly before the massive release of the Iraqi war documents, you walked out of an interview by CNN's Tika Schubert. She asked you about any turmoil within WikiLeaks and about accusations of rape and molestation by two Swedish women. He's walking off again, apparently.
No.
Why will you not respond to that question? All right, Daniel, are you still there?
Yes, sure.
I guess you can't answer for him. Oh, that was the video from before. You still... I'm sorry, that threw me, Julian.
I haven't walked off.
What was why did you walk off?
Well, I didn't walk off, Larry, just then, but perhaps I should.
No! That was embarrassing. Look, Larry's on his way out. I mean, God bless him. He's served a long time. But, you know, you look at that and you're like, it might be time to hang up the suspenders. Okay. He's like, what? Did he walk off again? Well, who's Jerry Seinfeld? What's going on here? Larry, concentrate. You just said you were rolling tape of him walking out earlier. Okay. So now they're going to, Assange is going to address whether that question should have been asked at all. Clip number 2.
released 400,000 classified documents, the most extraordinary history of a war to have ever been released in our civilization. Those documents cover 109,000 deaths. That is a serious matter, and it is extraordinarily disrespectful to those people to start conflating the first revelation of that material with any sort of tabloid journalism. And CNN should know better, and I believe does know better than to do that.
So Assange coming in strong there. You know, if I was him, I would have phrased it differently. I'd say, look, this is an attempt to smear me, and it's meant to distract you. Don't fall into the trap by getting distracted on that stuff. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised they're asking the question. I wouldn't walk out. Of course they're going to ask you that question. Really? You're surprised by that? I mean, you should be prepared for that. So I'm not really on Assange's side on how he's handling it so far. I'm with him that the incredible coincidence of those charges coming out just as the leaks are happening is a little strange and is meant as a distraction. Now, look at this, though. Larry King rallies. He takes it back at Assange, and I think makes a pretty good point. Clip 3.
She was asking about the deliverer of the information, a question about the deliverer of the information. You don't think that's fair to ask about the person who then repeats the information? Or as we said, the Pentagon spokesman were doing just what his bosses told him to do. How do we know that? We don't know that. We assume that. So we're asking a question just about you to further confirm your reliability. What was wrong with that?
Well, I mean, it should be obvious that these things are not in balance and they are not proportionate. It is not right to bring in sensational and, in fact, false claims, a relatively trivial matter compared to the deaths of 109,000 people. And it is, I mean, the CNN should be ashamed of doing that. And you, Larry,
well, okay. I'm not ashamed only because
should be ashamed.
all you had to do, Julian, was say they were false. And when you say they were trivial, rape is not trivial. But to say they were false, that's your answer. They're false. That's fine. That's all we wanted to hear. You're denying what they said.
Look, I'm on Larry's side there. Because even if they're meant as a distraction, whatever it might be, sensationalistic, look, you're bringing information to the table, and you're saying we should question the government, and I agree with you there. You're going to get questions back, and some of them might even be unfair, but you just got to handle the questions, and it's right for Larry to say, hey, you know what, I got to ask you this, and you just give me an answer one way or another, and we move on. And then Larry added,
I'm a pro. That's what pros do. I'm a professional. Look it up in the book.
That's right. And then Assange said,
it is a shame! A shame!
all right. So, look, I think the most important thing is the actual leaks. And they were fascinating. They showed us a world into Iraq we did not see before, also in Afghanistan with the earlier leaks. 15,000 extra civilians killed that were not told about. That is a massive number. As Assange said earlier in the interview, that is 6 times the size of 9/11. We should not be flippant with that. That is the heart of this story. And although Larry getting confused was fun, don't forget what the real story is about.